Hello, everyone. It's Kate Stillman with Yoga Healer and Yoga Health Coaching. And I'm here with Jen Allen. We do these coaching gyms with yoga health coaches that are in YHC Mastery, which is our second year program for yoga health coaches. And Jen, you've got a lot going on. So you have foot pain, you've had a number of surgeries, and you have questions around like what happens when I have to press pause in my business, but also you have questions about what happens when I don't necessarily have faith in the surgery I'm going into, and how might that affect the results, and then maybe some questions about what are some other ways potentially besides surgery, and some curiosity around like if I do the surgery, like how much are my tools from Body Thrive and from the habits that we do here at Yoga Healer from our Ayurveda, these habits of yogis, like how quickly could I maybe heal given that I have killer tools and skills.
Yeah, all that.
All that.
And surrendering. Like that's part of the thing too. Like healing is there's a huge aspect of surrender. And that's, I failed at that probably already like 7 times, 7 surgeries. So
on your foot, all on your foot?
No, I had 2 C-sections and a hysterectomy, complete hysterectomy.
Okay.
So those are also major. So, you fight the process. You don't surrender to the healing process.
Okay. Or you didn't anyway.
I didn't. Nope. Well, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I didn't surrender.
A lot of people don't. Maybe it's not taught as part of like, this is how to do surgery and recover. I remember like a decade ago, I think I bought healthysurgery.com on,
I'm writing it down.
Right. I know I didn't do anything with it. I'm not even sure if I still hold on to it or not, but I was like, people need, because I was helping my mom. Prepare. My mom has had a lot of joint replacements, just a lot of joint surgeries in general. Actually, she's having surgery today. She's very pro allopathy. And anyway, I was helping her prepare for hip replacement, her first big one. And she'd already had back surgery. But we prepped for like a month. We had her prep for a month. She was pain-free when she went into surgery. It was really cool. And she had a great recovery because of having basically gone through a detox and using bone broths and, and things before going in. She went in and her Agni was strong and her Ama, or that, the basically metabolic toxicity was at 0 or close to that. And it made a huge difference in how grounded she felt as well. Because if we look at the emotions that go with stepping into the unknown, if there's a lot of, if you have a lot of negative emotions in Ayurveda, that's ama. That also will create a metabolic toxicity, where there's stuff in your cells that is getting in the way of your cells functioning as a unified whole, which is an essential element of a strong immune system. But also an accelerator in healing. So it is very important how we prepare. But I want to kind of back up. I want to take like a giant step back, because I think for me, and it might be because I spend, a lot of time in another country that has very different regulations than the United States. The FDA is quite different than a lot of what's able to happen in Mexico, with regenerative medicine and more experimental medicine being just much more accessible. Not that that's not happening here. It's just not as, everywhere as in many ways that I see, at least in the pockets that I'm in Mexico. But that's really my first question of like, have you worked with a regenerative medicine doctor that specializes in joints?
No, I haven't. I feel like maybe I had not given up, but didn't explore that because I don't know that much about it. And B, I my joint is basically artificial, it's metal. So yeah, I don't know if that's applicable in this situation.
Right. And so why is it metal? Like what was that surgery?
Oh yeah. So I don't know. It's the craziest thing. In the brief capsule of the story, I had an emergency C-section with my son because he was breech and they didn't know. And immediately upon emerging from this surgery, that's, it's a pretty painful surgery.
It's significant. Yep.
The first thing I say is my foot hurts, right? Like, I'm like, there's something wrong with my foot. So my foot started hurting. It had been hurting since his birth. And, a couple, maybe 6, 7 years later, I finally went in and asked someone about it, orthopedic person. And so they cleaned up the joint for bone spurs, is what they said it was. So that did nothing, basically, and then I went back 2 years later and had, like, it just kept
That's
rubbing.
like an orthoscopic surgery where they're shaving the bone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
and did they find bone spurs that they expected?
They did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So bone spurs, then that never really worked. Like that, it never reduced the pain at all. So
and was the pain, were they saying, was coming from the nerve?
They did not say. I have my records, but I don't recall that.
Okay.
I'm curious also to look up nerve stuff. But so then I went back in and they did they're like, your joint's shot. Like it's just, it just keeps deteriorating. So
like, what are they talking about there? Are they talking about like, what do they mean by the joint shot? Is there inflammation? Is there a lack of cartilage or in the joint? Like, this is where it's time to ask more questions.
Yeah. And I have the records, but of course this happened
and it's your big toe. It's between your big toe and your second toe.
It's the big toe joint.
It's the big toe joint. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the big toe joint. So anyway, I have the records. I'll look and see what it said. But so they put a joint replacement in there, which is metal. Like they drill a hole and put metal in your joint.
Okay.
So that's what I have now but it's metal on bone. There's only metal in one part of it, and then the other part of it is bone.
Okay.
So it's not a normal functioning joint in the sense that you have synovial fluid or whatever normal joints have, right?
Where's the pain coming from? Because metal's not going to give, metal doesn't hurt. It's your bodily tissue that hurts. So it's the organic matter that hurts.
Yeah.
So where's the pain coming from is going to be that's where, that's what I'm curious. Like, why did the bones create, why does a bone create a bone spur? Or why do bones calcify? Right. And that's where and I'm just going to say this in a way, like there's a way of just going to make some massive generalizations, which some of you listening are not going to agree with. And okay, good. Let's generate some good questions from that. If we just go back to the beginning, and in our Ayurveda, we always like to understand the root cause. Like, why is the bone calcifying? Usually that's a protective mechanism. And there's often inflammation, right? Within that. And so what tissue is inflamed and why? And what is going on there. So before C-section, totally normal feet, everything's fine. The only connecting the dot was the C-section.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for 7 years you have pain on walking.
And then I also have another kid and another C-section. I mean, there's a lot going on in the span of this 7 years. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it hurt worse in pregnancy when you had obviously more weight?
It did not. It was about the same. Mm-hmm. It was about the same.
Okay. So then the question is now is where is the pain really coming from? Like, why is there pain?
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing that's troubling me is it has shifted. So it's, it's like an arthritic big toe joint, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the pain has shifted to the metatarsals. So across the forefront of my foot.
Yeah.
Probably because of weight. The way I'm walking, right? Like I don't walk through my big toe. Mm-hmm. So for the last, 20 years, I've been walking on the side of my foot, right? Mm-hmm. And putting weight on parts that maybe aren't supposed to bear that kind of weight. Mm-hmm. So now it's all across the metatarsals, the second and third primarily. Mm-hmm. So then there's kind of been this chain of events that have happened because of this.
So this is where, to me, and just to understand, what is regenerative medicine and what is the philosophy there? Because it's different than an allopathic medicine where, allopathy has a few big tools, drugs and surgeries, right? And so it's if you, it's the saying of if all you have is a hammer. Right. And so getting other perspectives on it, to me, is very important. Like if you have more of a naturally a regenerative philosophy of like, I believe the body can regenerate itself. And again, an allopathic and not an osteopath, but an orthopedic surgeon is going to have a certain belief system and certain assumptions that come with their training. And then someone that is coming in osteopath or a regenerative doctor who's also an MD, but is studying regeneration, which is like growing by leaps and bounds right now, is not covered by insurance. Right. And this is why I find most people don't go into regenerative, because it's not covered by their insurance policy. But like, neither is any yoga class most people have taken. Like neither is like any massage most people have ever received. Like neither are the supplements you buy at the grocery store. Neither is organic food. Like neither is like all exercise classes, like all the things that are probably helping a person out. And this can be really big. Like this, it can be really a big investment. Like you could be looking at getting like and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a regenerative doctor, but I know a bit about what they do. And I've had a lot of, or I've had some experience with it to know that like, I love the philosophy. Like it really lines up with what I've seen in life, which is life begets life. And if we can assist regeneration, then we should, even if that means that we have to sell the house kind of thing. Like, even if it means fairly radical decisions to have a better home in our own body. And I don't say that lightly, but I do very much understand that people that have to pay out of pocket for what they need, it's often you're making some very, very big decisions in your life. But there's a lot happening in there. They experimented since the 1970s with basically they take your blood out, they spin it through a centrifuge, and they inject the plasma. And that's PRP, or when they're injecting plasma into the joints. There's also a kind of these nerve injections where they inject dextrose into the body, into the nerves, that actually just kind of help the nerve reset. And I don't really understand the science behind it, but I've had the therapy enough to know, like, oh, when you inject dextrose into a nerve, the nerve remembers its parasympathetic response. It turns off from that firing intensity to like, oh, we don't have to do that. And then the muscles around it start to relax and circulation returns to normal instead of being hard and intense, which creates more of the fibrosis, which eventually can lead to more scar tissue or calcification or bone spurring. So there is a natural fear in there. And, the stats, like you said, on the fusion surgery are 50-50. 50-50 is like, for something that's going to alter your possibility for regeneration, it to me is scary. Like those numbers are like a flip in a coin.
Not good enough.
Not good. Maybe not good enough. Yeah. Not good enough. And the potential damage, like that's the other thing to do a lot of research on, is like, what is the potential damage that can happen as a result? I mean, generally with any type of surgery, there's arthritis goes up. Any type of joint surgery, the body's going to protect around that. And so you have more calcification or less. In our Ayurveda, we would say like less ojas is then available in there, which will create ease and flow and nutrition and detoxification of that joint. So then you have like a buildup of, and it is a level of toxicity to cells, right? Where they're not able to then like take in nutrients and release what they don't want anymore, which if they hold on to what they don't want anymore, that's toxic.
Yeah. I think all that's happened.
Right. And so then the question is like this is where who you pay attention to and what you start to work on really, really does matter. To me, like spontaneous healing, quantum healing, and regenerative, and those are more on the like where New Age meets MD, like people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and then more on the regenerative medicine, which is basically like straight up MD goes to, instead of injecting cortisol, what happens when you start to inject other stuff into joints. In some of this stuff, I mentioned the PRP, in the neural injections, but there's also placental injections, which are expensive. Like you're looking in the US dollars, more probably around $10,000 to get someone else's placenta injected into your toe, which some of you listening are like, what? That's happening? Like, yeah, it's happening. And there's great research on it. And, you know, basically the people that are doing it the most, the market demand for it is A, people with money, right? And then B, professional athletes. And it's something that like you might hardly know people that have had like your favorite football players and NBA players and whatnot that are getting injections into their knees and into their shoulders and into their big toes. And why? Because the healing can be so fast, so rapid. So even the placental injections versus the plasma injections, I think it's something like 100-fold, or it's not 100, but it's exponentially a faster recovery.
Yeah, I remember when they said, do you want to save your placenta and stem cells? I'm like, what's that mean? And they're like, that means it's like $10,000 a year to store this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, no, I don't think I'm good.
Yeah.
I think I'm good. But I mean, I remember there was that conversation. My kids were born in 2001 and 2003.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I was
and
like,
it doesn't matter because you can have someone else's placenta injected into your toe.
okay, fine, good enough. You know, it's funny that you mentioned the quantum healing. Like I've been into that, like healing through frequency.
Yeah.
And I even purchased a device, right? Like I purchased this device. It's called a Healy, and it's like quantum medicine. It's like healing through frequencies. And so I have been experimenting with that, but not so much the regenerative.
Yeah. You know, it's like the bigger perspective, just for everyone listening to this, and like how to me this is so universally applicable to everyone right now, is basically like what information you take in and the beliefs and the assumptions that is coming from very much affects your choices and your thinking. And so, you know, and I'm not anti-surgery at all. It's just one of the choices. It's one of the beliefs and assumptions. And it can be amazing, and it can be successful, and it can be great. And all of these things. But so can getting super curious about like what else is happening at the leading edge. And one of the things that I get really curious about is like the people that have like unlimited money, what are they doing? What are they doing? Like, how are they investing in longevity? How are they investing in, and are they opting into fusion type surgeries, or are they getting placental injections into their big toes? And then the other curiosity to me is like, and what else is happening in stem cell regenerative therapies, and where, and how much does it cost, and why? And the other thing is, because I've traveled the world a lot, and I've just seen over the last 20, 30 years, just the massive expansion of medical tourism. Right. And it's a thing. I mean, and it's a thing because things that are more expensive in one country can be a lot less expensive in another country. And there's also other things happening in other places that can't happen in certain countries because of restrictions that government has. And to understand too, that there is, I mean, we're in an interesting time and place. And I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but I do understand that big pharmacology has the most money right now. And it's a money game. Like that, like if we want to be naive and think that like the people that produce the food and the people that produce the medicine right now on the planet have your health as their greatest interest, I would say like, wake up. That's not the case. And so what that means is that the individual needs to take on their own education and needs to take on also their own investment. If you are always your own best investment, your mind and your body, then it's often a very different way of spending. I think the beauty is in some countries, the US is one of them, is like we do have a medical savings account. We have these HSAs or health savings accounts where we can put pre-tax dollars into a health savings account. And to me, that is like, thank you. I hope that stays alive because that is a really good incentive. In living Ayurveda, it's super practical, it's super down to earth, and we want it to make a difference in your life, honestly, the moment you start. Hi, it's Kate Stillman, and I'm going to tell you about how the Living Ayurveda course works and why it works the way it does work. A part of my natural personality is that I'm a futurist. I'm an innovator. I can't help it. It's just the way that my awareness works and has always worked. So I'm always looking at how do we make Ayurveda practical to solve for our biggest problems, at home and nourishing ourselves and getting deep rest and passing on the habits to those who our lives affect. If we understand our habits are truly not our own, we say, hey, whose habits affect me and whose habits am I affecting? And can we align those habits with the kind of radiant longevity that we want to experience, right? Year by year, decade by decade by decade by decade in our road ahead. The other core part of my philosophy is around collective leadership, and I take those two words very seriously. I see how there's a whole next level of open-minded integration where we look at the questions that you're bringing, the conversations you're wanting to have, and we build that into our leadership model, help lead and guide our community in the direction of addressing the deepest, most potent issues that'll help us get the greatest traction in growth and transformational evolution. So that's a lot of, my philosophy on Living Ayurveda. I look at our planet, I look at the stresses to our ecosystems, the stresses to our human population, our human culture, and that's what we're solving for. So that's how the whole course is geared. I take my community very seriously, become part of my heart, become part of my people, and that's how the course works. I mean, that's why it works too, is it's even though we're all coming in from all over the world, we have an experience of deep connection, deep community, and evolution together. All right, I hope that clarifies some of your questions around the Living Ayurveda course. So the other thing that surgery, a lot of people are covered on Medicaid or Medicare or on their, whether it's with your job, you get a certain insurance or your spouse's job or whatnot in different countries. I know of people listening that, there's basically a government healthcare plan that we don't have in the US and is in many, I'm not going to get into that. But in any case, it's like what's covered versus what's not covered. Everyone is, as far as I can tell, everyone is dealing with that.
And I don't know what the cost of surgery is. I mean, I do have insurance.
Yeah.
And I've had surgeries before.
I don't want to say that. It's what is the long-term cost of the surgery? And that is not factored in. Mm-hmm. What is the cost of what's going to happen 10 years down the road because of the surgery? And that, or 20 years down the road or 30 years down the road. And that's where, to me, that crossroads is, it just really needs to be looked at from a deeper time perspective with your own life.
Yeah. That's why I haven't had the surgery. I've been dragging my feet.
Good. Well, you
so
can
during
just
feet dragging,
my intuitive body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So during the feet dragging, I can explore what are the possibilities.
Yeah. So I would do a ton of research on the internet on regenerative therapy. I would go to someone that's, who's an expert in that comes well recommended. I would also maybe look at, talking to an osteopath. And I would do a lot of research on all that too on the internet. And just really starting from there. With the spread across the toes, to me, I mean, it just sounds like it could be nerve. Like right off the bat. So it's like, if we're not solving for nerve, then
what's the surgery going to get me?
What's the surgery going to get you? And what's going to happen to the other nerves when you have that surgery? I mean, they're not going to be happy about that. Yeah. Okay. So then I think there's a part B on this in terms of, if we're going to have surgery, and I'm not anti-surgery at all. And I am all for, like I talked about in the beginning, for like, how do we really how do we really create a environment in ourselves that's mm-hmm. Very strong, with strong immunity, and that by definition in Ayurveda means that there's not ama, that there's not stuff that the body needs to digest in the field that's creating confusion, aka metabolic toxicity. So doing a detox before, and like being strong and being grounded and being well lubricated is a big thing in Ayurveda, where we oil our skin and we oil our joints and we oil our sense organs, like literally. And just being in that very, very grounded space, and then positive thinking of like really visualizing the surgery and doing mental rehearsal of how you want the recovery to be, and setting up systems and structures for that to happen. And then knowing something about yourself. For instance, when I had when I had knee surgery last winter on my meniscus, which in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have done. Like, and I've learned a lot more about regenerative medicine since then. In any case, I knew enough about myself from just in general, from probably doing a lot of detoxing, twice a year for years, and from just understanding about how I handle trauma, to know that like I like to be alone. Other people really don't. Like, other people really like to have help and support around them. I don't. Like, I like to fly solo, and just have me and not be processing other people in general. Like, even supporting, loving, blah, blah, blah. So like I went to Mexico, Guadalajara, like booked a 5-star hotel that had great room service, got, the like food delivery app on my phone, and I had a blast. And, and I was just like, I'm going to be here as long as I want to be here. The great rooftop pool and, whatnot. And it wasn't expensive really. But it was like my way of doing something. And some people might listen and be like, must be nice, Kate. But I'd say, like, anyone can actually, if you put enough thought and intention behind it, you can really design the kind of experience you want to have. It's just like women who take a little more time before giving birth to like really line out their friends that they want, if they want to have food delivered to their house, by saying like, this is actually what I want. Like, don't just bring a lasagna because I can't digest that, but like, I would really love kitchery or soup, and here's a recipe. And that's the thing, is like, we can very much see, mentally rehearse exactly what we want to have happen, and then set up the structures for that to happen.
That's a good point. I think in many of my surgeries in the past, that has not been set up.
You have not set that up. And that's
right.
And that's the ownership that's necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I like the idea of being alone. I think I get too caught up in what other people are doing and what's happening with other people. And a lot of energy goes out that way versus internal, healing.
Yeah. And, if we put it out to our friends, it's like, does anyone have a cabin in the woods, or is anyone going to be traveling where your space is available or whatnot, or can you kick your people out for a while? I mean, there's a lot of different, we get creative if we understand like, hey, this is how I'll heal best, which is what everybody really wants for me. And people freaked out. Like, no one wanted me to, like, my parents were like so against me having surgery mix. I'm like, I'm 47 years old. I'm making my own choices, people. People didn't want me to be alone. Yeah. And I was like, like, I love you all. I'm doing this my way. And I think the more we can understand and even ask ourselves, like, what is the environment that I will heal best in? What are the foods that'll help me heal? And in Ayurveda, it's pretty clear that, surgery is incredibly vata vitiating, which means you need a vata pacifying diet. You need food that's very simple and easy to digest. You need to sip hot water so that your system is calm and clear. You need to take laxative type foods. Like for me, that's, cooked beets and sauerkraut. So I made sure I had the things on hand that would allow my body to regulate, nutrition and elimination. And then I knew too, like, I need body work. Like, my body is, and I think most bodies are, like, very responsive to body work. So I had my body workers like lined up, so that, after surgery, I was able to get some good body work.
Yeah, I was like, is there such thing as a surgery doula? Because I want that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's, and it should be a huge field. Absolutely. Death doula, surgery doula. There are postpartum doulas that make all the difference. And a doula is really someone who understands the process and understands the role of a support person. And it's it's kind of like a do what needs to get done person. So, and you can, and really idealizing your own post, if you choose surgery, to say like, well, what that. Now, there's one other point that I'm going to bring in. I know this is becoming like an endless monologue. But the other point that I want to bring into this is that there's a real opportunity often to do what is done we'll say postpartum, post-surgery, to do that before. And so often people need to get sick to take rest. Often people need to have surgery to be immobilized. Now they have crutches or can't walk or can't do this or that or can't make their own food or can't, to actually get the kind of nourishment and downtime they need. So it's very much like, are we putting the cart before the horse, or are we allowing the horse to pull the cart? And so if you actually need to go on a healing exploration retreat for a month, whatever that means, and whatever that, like, I can usually do that and make money at the same time. Maybe you can too. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean like this is going to be an expensive, costly, income shutting down type of a thing. It's more of a mental rehearsal. It's more of a creating a certain parameter of like, wow, for a lot of people to actually get the kind of time and space for healing, they have to put their body in trauma and become disabled. Mm-hmm. And that's what surgery will do. And there'll be a recovery period. It's like, what if we put that more in the before as an experiment and just see what happens?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway of the whole thing. It's, I've been slowly shifting my mindset this year as I've become increasingly less able to walk. I mean, I can walk, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't walk for exercise. Yeah, I don't go for hikes or whatever, walk the dog. But like, I've shifted into internal work. I'm like, okay, what yoga can I do? What meditation can I do? What other practices can I do that can really, is this a signal like that I need to slow down and do other things instead of continuing the hard pushing of certain types of activities? So I have really embraced that this year, but not to the extent that maybe a healing, exploration. Yeah, like, what if I took this? Because foot fusion surgery is like 6 to 8 weeks of like pretty much nothing, right? Yeah. Like, you're down.
Getting to the bathroom's hard. Let's just put it in perspective.
Yeah, like showering, probably, so this is very limited stuff. Yeah. So what if I
50-50 outcome? So there's also a lot of doubt when you're dealing with that, and that often doesn't help. Like, did it work? Is it worth it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the pain, just the pain. Like, I can't do painkillers like opioids. I can't. Like, I've had many surgeries without, and that's a little scary because this is intense pain, I hear. But my point being is, yeah, like, can you just take the time ahead? Not even if it's 8 weeks. What if it's just 4 weeks? What if it's just literally 2 weeks where you are taking that healing journey to its most, to the most degree that you can before even doing anything like that? To me is the really intriguing part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have always done that. I remember once I pulled my hamstring attachment. The only way it healed was a surgery. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't stop doing the things long enough for my hamstring attachment to heal until I had surgery.
Yeah.
Then you don't do anything.
And then you don't do anything. And that's, and I get it. Like, you guys, I speak from experience. I get it. And that's where detox, like Ayurvedic detox and Panchakarma, is so brilliant, is because it can bring people into that experience of slowing way down to the vibration of deep healing without the trauma. So yeah, that's my advice. Like, see regenerative doctor, a regenerative medicine doctor, do a ton of research on it, and know that your big question mark pauses for a reason. If we're going to go into surgery, we know from the placebo effect, like, you want to 100% believe in your surgeon and the surgery and not allow a flicker of a doubt. Like, if you end up there, okay, but that has to be the operating system. Yeah. Because how much the mind affects the body.
I'm nowhere near ready to have surgery then.
Okay. Yeah, well, report back. Let us know what's going on. And
I will. I'm going to do my research first, and then I'm going to schedule my deep healing. The Vasant Lod's not too far from me. I don't know if they're doing in-person Panchakarmas yet, but
yeah,
it'd be an interesting thought.
Yeah. And then just getting curious of like, what are the little things I'm doing that seem to alleviate some pain? Because it could be so much worse. And I'll just, you know, like people that I've talked to is like, wow, you know, it's like, it could be so much worse, but because you're doing all of these things, because you're using a foam roller, because you're doing self massage and using good oils, and, you know, it's like, because you're doing these things, you're actually able to tolerate. And that can also just show you like how much regeneration might actually be possible. But it does, yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, my takeaway is the slowing down to the vibration of deep healing. Like that's gonna have to be my new mantra. That's it.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. I actually, one other thing that I always get curious about is like, there's so much intelligence in our physiology of like, how can you connect the dots between, and I would do research on this because it's like, I'm so curious about how we get to know more and more and more as a human species, literally every minute, given that like more is published on the internet all the time. And a lot of it is crap, but a small percentage of it is like breakthrough amazing. Like why was this the sequence of events? And learning from your intuitive body, learning from research, from like whatever, like how could these things be connected?
Yeah.
Okay. Have fun with your exploration.
There's work to be done.
Okay, awesome. Keep me posted.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.